former governor of Odisha, Vishwambarnath Pandey.
Gandhiji led India and Indian people to complete independence and Swaraj. He inculcated the spirit that people should think not only of their region or their state or their community, but of entire Indian nation. He also emphasized when people asked him that the fight for Swaraj has come to an end. Gandhiji contradicted, no, it has not come to an end. So long a single nation in this earth is in bondage, the struggle for freedom of India would continue. That was the spirit which people inculcated in themselves. But unfortunately, as soon as people got independence, they began to think of their own state, of their own region. Gandhiji painfully said, if Assam belongs to Assamiya and Bihar belongs to Biharis, then whom does this India belong? The veteran freedom fighter of Odisha, Dr. Radhanatha Rath, believed in the philosophy of Mahatma Gandhi that one should think not only of one's state but of the entire country. He said he fought for the freedom of India. He suffered imprisonment, not for the sake of only Odisha, but for the entire country.
The legendary Radhanath Rath begins his 100th year on the 4th of December 1995. The government of Odisha hosts a grand reception to celebrate the occasion, presided over by Chief Minister J.B. Patnaik. The chief guest is the President of the Lok Sevak Mandal and Governor of Andhra, Krishnakant.
एग्जामिनेशन देने के लिए फीस नहीं है। 5 रुपए फीस चाहिए थी, राधानाथ के पास फीस नहीं थी। 1-1 रुपया मांग रहे थे कि मुझे 5 रुपए बन जाएं, तो अचानक मिल गए मधुसूदन दास से। उन्होंने कहा तुम 1 रुपया मांग रहे हो, इम्तिहान के लिए कितने पैसे चाहिए? उन्होंने कहा 5 रुपए। तो 5 रुपए क्यों नहीं मांगते? शायद 5 रुपया देना किसी लिए कठिन होगा, मैं एक से एक मांगता हूं। और 5 रुपए मधुसूदन दास ने दिए और उसके बाद जीवन भर कृपा रही इनके ऊपर।
In 1895, the Raja of Athgad invited Sanskrit scholars from Puri and built the new village of Radhanathpur. Radhanath's father was Jagannath Rath, a Sanskrit scholar. His mother was Kamala Devi. The Raja of Athgad visited them to see their first child and named him Radhanath. He was born on the 6th of December, 1896. As per tradition, Radhanath was introduced to learning at the age of 4 years and 4 months.
Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha.
Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha.
अच्छा कुली भी मुंडे मारो हाथ कुली भा मुंडे मारो ठीक है ताली मारो बेस्ट
He went to Balasore with his maternal uncle at the age of 7. Here he studied at the Victoria Jubilee School, where his uncle was a teacher. Young Radhanath was a bright boy and usually stood first in all school examinations. He was awarded a total of 21 prizes and medals for standing first in English, mathematics, Sanskrit, Oriya, and in debating competitions, and even in sports. The Raja of Balasore, Vaikuntanath, was so pleased with Radhanath that he gave him a scholarship. Thus he was able to study at the elite Ravenshaw Collegiate School in Cuttack up to matriculation. Here again he passed in the first division in 1916. Radhanath was 1 year junior to Subhash Chandra Bose, who was born and bred in Cuttack. The two boys were friends in the same school. As was done in the old days, when Radhanath was 16, he was married to an 11-year-old girl, Savitri Devi. To support his 4 younger brothers, Radhanath worked at a printing press in Sambalpur. He also worked as a part-time typist for the police department. The superintendent of police, a Mr. Butterfield, was pleased with his work. He got him a job in the forestry department in Chaibasa in Singhbhum district at 75 rupees a month. Radhanath led a frugal life. He cooked his own food and sent his savings to his parents. The major influence in Radhanath's life was to be Gopabandhu Das, who was born on the banks of the Bhargavi River in the village of Swando. From his childhood, Gopabandhu was a devotee of Binod Bihari, and he recited from the Bhagavat every day. Muktiar Ramchandra Das inspired Gopabandhu to devote his life to social service. Gopabandhu and 4 of his friends, known as the Panch Shakha, established an open-air school to be known as the Satyavadi Bana Vidyalaya. Behind the Sakhi Gopal temple, the open-air school was started in 1909. The purpose was to nurture ideal citizens with a healthy body and a healthy mind. In later years, this institution and the ideas of Gopabandhu were to have a profound influence on the life of Radhanath.
एक टंकार केते भागरु एक भाग चारि भागरु एक भाग ताले एक टंका पई 84 किलो पई जेते पडुछि 4 आना पई तार 4 भागरु एक भाग पडिवो.
By 1911, Gopabandhu had abolished untouchability and introduced common dining among all the boarders of the school. In 1912, Bihar and Orissa, as one unit, was separated from Bengal. Gopabandhu Das was the sole Odia member of the Bihar-Orissa Legislative Council in 1917. In spite of an Odia majority in Singhbhum district, Hindi and Bengali were still the official languages in courts and schools. Gopabandhu went all over Singhbhum to urge the people to protect Odia. So several Odia primary schools were started, but privately. It was at Chaibasa that young Radhanath came to know and be influenced by Gopabandhu Das. He became aware of the struggle of his people to protect their language, culture and identity from the onslaught of British rule. The inquisitive Radhanath delved deeply into the past of Orissa. This had a profound influence on his future. The East India Company had annexed the southern part of Orissa and made it part of the Madras Presidency. The northern part of Orissa was merged with Bengal. The central part of Orissa, which was ruled by the Raja of Nagpur, was occupied by the British in 1803. Part of it was joined to the central province and part of it to the Chota Nagpur division. Then they recognized 18 princely states under the umbrella of a British political agent. All that remained of the once great empire of Orissa were 3 coastal districts, and even these came under the Bengal province. Under the dark cloud of British rule, Orissa was thus dismembered in the most cruel and arbitrary manner. No other part of India had suffered such dismemberment and subjugation. As Radhanath Rath has pointed out in his book, Satya Sandha, the tragedy of Orissa was made infinitely worse by the negligence of the British during the terrible famine of 1866, which took a toll of more than 1 million lives. Almost 1/3 of the then population of Orissa. In the same book, Dr. Rath has quoted that in the British Parliament in 1867, Sir Stafford Northcote, Secretary of State for India, said of the famine that it was a matter of shame and humiliation to Britain and the officers of the British Raj. Under British rule, Bengali, Hindi and Telugu were introduced in the courts and schools, an infamous attempt to destroy the Odia language. The first prominent Odia advocate, Madhusudan Das, took up the cause of the Odia people. In 1883, he made a representation to the Lieutenant Governor of Bengal to unite all Odia-speaking people under one administration. This proposal was rejected as absurd. Nevertheless, Odia magazines continued to voice the grievances of the people. Odia leaders recalled the spirit of the Kalinga War, but insisted that the struggle to preserve the Odia identity and language should be carried on in a peaceful manner. This was the message that Gandhiji was to bring to India many years later. Young Radhanath also came to know that in 1902, the Ganjam National Conference had been held in Rambha at the instance of the Raja of Kalikot. At the invitation of the conference, Madhusudan Das helped to expand local aspirations to form an Utkal Samilani. The first meeting was held under the presidentship of Maharaja Shri Ramchandra Bhanjdev at Cuttack in 1903. This marked a turning point in Odisha's political future. The patriotic spirit in young Radhanath rebelled against the injustice of British rule, and he was attracted to the leadership of Gopabandhu to protect the Odia language by the spread of education. It is recorded in Gopabandhu's diary that one evening in Chaibasa, over dinner, he asked young Radhanath to join him in starting an Odia newspaper at Satyabadi. This was a turning point in the life of young Radhanath. He immediately resigned from his government job and joined Gopabandhu at Saki Gopal. On the day of Vijayadashmi, the 4th of October 1919, Gopabandhu eventually launched a weekly Odia newspaper called Samaj. Samaj used simple language to inform the people of their rights and duties as a precursor to the freedom struggle. Radhanath was to look after the Satyavadi press and work as assistant manager of Samaj for 25 rupees a month. Samaj became popular overnight. At 3 paise per copy, the common man could easily afford it. Samaj promoted non-cooperation and the spirit of Swaraj. Even though exhausted by hard work, Radhanath continued to expand his intellectual horizons. The Temple of Lord Jagannath. In 1920, Lala Lajpat Rai, founder-president of the Lok Sevak Mandal, visited Puri. At Gopabandhu's suggestion, Radhanath was attached to Lajpat Rai as a volunteer. Lalaji was greatly impressed by the young man. Radhanath has recorded that Gopabandhu had taken the lead in persuading the Nagpur conference of the Congress to accept the idea of linguistic states in a free India. This paved the way for the Utkal Samilani to announce its support for the Indian National Congress in 1920. Gopabandhu Das became the first president of the Congress in Odisha. At the invitation of Gopabandhu, Gandhiji paid his first visit to Odisha in 1921. He stayed at the Swaraj ashram in Cuttack, when Radhanath worked for him as a volunteer. Gandhiji addressed a mammoth gathering on the banks of the Kattajodi river, where he declared his support for a separate state of Odisha. Gandhiji was so moved by the poverty of the people of Odisha that he took to wearing a half loincloth to identify himself with the poorest of the poor in India. The young Radhanath, inspired by Gandhi and Gopabandhu, devoted himself heart and soul to Samaj and its sister publications. By this time, Samaj was read in every nook and corner of Odisha and even outside. It was at Satyavadi that Radhanath and his wife, married in childhood, began their life as a family. Radhanath had worked as a personal assistant to Gopabandhu for nearly 10 years when Samaj shifted its office from Satyavadi to Puri in 1925. Since Cuttack was the headquarters of the Odisha division, it became the center of political activity. Gopabandhu, still the editor of Samaj, lived in Swaraj ashram as Congress president. Hence, the Samaj printing press and office was shifted to Cuttack in 1926. Gopabandhu Das, popularly known as the father of modern Odisha, breathed his last in June of 1928. His samadhi rests in Satyavadi, the place he loved the most. In his will, Gopabandhu left the press and Samaj publications to the Lok Sevak Mandal. He wished that Radhanath Rath be admitted to membership of the Mandal. This was done. The Kadua Ashram, a Khadi and Village Industries Trust near Puri, had been started by Gopabandhu. Radhanath named the trust after his guru, and as its president, he extended its activities to provide services to thousands of villagers, especially women. In 1930, the salt satyagraha of Gandhiji so awakened the nation that Radhanath Babu took the bold step of transforming Samaj from a weekly newspaper to a daily. To do this, he risked taking a loan from a bank, giving his personal guarantee and the guarantee of a sympathizer, Sri Akuli Mishra. In the princely states, there were many stories of oppression and cruelty, all of which were reported in Samaj. As a result, there began the Praja Mandal movement, which represented the people's agitation for freedom. It spread like wildfire. Radhanath was president of the Prajamandal movement in Atgarh, but he travelled throughout Odisha in the struggle for freedom. The culmination of the work of Madhusudan Das, Gopabandhu, Sri Ramchandra Bhanjdev, Fakir Mohan Senapati, and K.C. Gajapati Dev of the Utkal Samilani was that the O.D. O'Neill Committee accepted in principle the formation of Odisha as a separate province in 1931. Finally, the province of Odisha came into being on the 1st of April 1936. During the Quit India movement in 1942, the Samaj office was closed down by the British and its editor arrested. Radhanath, who was assistant editor, worked during the nights to make litho prints of pamphlets which were widely distributed. While visiting his son in hospital, Radhanath was arrested. He was kept in the Berhampur jail for 2 years, where he wrote his memoirs, especially concerning his guru Gopabandhu Das. In 1945, Madras, then the neighbouring province of Odisha, claimed the Duduma Falls. As president of the Utkal Samilani and joint editor of Samaj, Radhanath led an agitation against the false claim and exposed it. As a result, the Duduma Falls remained in Odisha. After India achieved independence, Lingaraj Mishra, editor of Samaj, became a cabinet minister. That is when Radhanath became the editor. In 1946, Radhanath was elected to the Odisha Assembly from the Atgarh constituency. In 1948, the princely states were merged with Odisha and at last unity was achieved. From 1952 to 1961, Radhanath Babu became a cabinet minister in Odisha with the important portfolios of finance and education under Chief Minister Navakrishna Chaudhary and later Minister for Development in the cabinet of Hari Krishna Mehtab. As finance minister, he provided ample funds for general and technical education. In 1954, he was the first minister to give priority to minor irrigation projects to help cultivators. To take but one example, Samsarpur village in Atgarh is today prosperous and is a leader in progressive agriculture. Radhanath Babu started India's first Adivasi college at Phulwani in 1954. He also helped to start colleges for women. He invited experts from the University of Missouri College of Agriculture and with their collaboration prepared a memorandum. He introduced a bill which was passed by the Assembly to create Odisha's first agricultural university. Radhanath Babu was responsible for Odisha's first open zoo park at Nandankanan, only 20 kilometers from Bhubaneswar, during the chief ministership of Hari Krishna Mehtab. In 1956, Radhanath Babu convinced a subcommittee of the central government, presided over by Jawaharlal Nehru, to set up India's first public sector steel plant at Raurkela in Odisha. It is also to his credit that he persuaded Lal Bahadur Shastri to include the establishment of Paradeep as a major port in the second five-year plan. and to expand the railway network in Odisha. In 1955, the Mahanadi and Katjodi rivers broke their banks. The terrible floods affected 5 million people. Radhanath, with considerable effort, secured aid from the central government. He himself supervised the repair and rehabilitation work for about 2 years. Radhanath did considerable work to prepare a memorandum for the State's Reorganization Commission to include Odia-speaking areas which were still outside the state. After 10 years in government, Radhanath Babu once again took over as editor of Samaj in 1961. Working full-time, even overtime, he established Samaj as the leading daily in Odisha, a position it enjoys to this day.
देखिबा ପାଇଁ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ପାଖାପାଖି ଅଞ୍ଚଳ ଯୋଉଗୁଡ଼ିକ ହେଇଛି ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ବାଲେଶ୍ୱର ହେଇଛି ଅନ୍ୟ ଯୋଉ ଜାଗା ମାନଙ୍କରେ ଟିକେ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ହେଇଛି କୋଉ ଜାଗାଟା ଗୋଟେ କହିଲେ ଯାହା କହିବି ଯିବେ ତ
Radhanath is always sympathetic to workers' grievances and problems. It is interesting to record that while composing was done by hand, this is the first treadle machine used for printing Samaj in 1919. Radhanath was responsible for modernizing the press by introducing the monotype process in Odia. Then Samaj was the first newspaper in Odisha to use the rotary method of printing. Apart from modernizing and expanding the press, Radhanath employed many more people who became part of the Samaj family. In 1961, the circulation of Samaj was 18,071. By 1971, it rose to 47,219. By 1978, it was 65,000. In 1996, it has now increased to 135,000, the highest circulation of any Odia daily. In 1919, the initial investment by the founder editor was 3,972 rupees. And by 1996, the assets of Samaj are worth about 9 crores of rupees. As per the will of its founder editor Gopabandhu Das, the Samaj establishment is a charitable trust under the management of the Lok Sevak Mandal. The profits are spent for relief and rehabilitation, for the spread of education among the poor and the general welfare of the needy. The vision of Gopabandhu has been kept alive by the devotion of Radhanath for the last 77 years, a great achievement by any standard. Professor Sri Ramchandra Das.
On Radhanath Babu's commission and on the request of the President of the Lok Sabha Mandal, Sri Lal Bahadur Shastri, I was commissioned to write a short biography of Utkalamani Pandit Gopabandhu Das in English. It was dedicated to Sri Lal Bahadur Shastri. So Lal Bahadur ji was invited to the Gopabandhu Bhavan at Cuttack, the venue of the Samaj, to inaugurate the book. At that time I came to know that Radhanath Babu and Lal Bahadur ji were intimate with each other. Jawaharlal Nehru died on the 27th May 1964 and Lal Bahadur ji succeeded him. That time that I was told that Radhanath Babu had been offered the governorship of Assam, but Radhanatha Babu, who was a minister of Odisha government from 1952 to 1961, declined to accept any further assignment in his life, as he wanted to put Samaj on very sound footing, and therefore he did not accept the governorship of Assam.
Sri Vishwanath Das, the first Premier of Odisha and President of the All India Lok Sevak Mandal for many years, extended support to the younger Radhanath in the expansion program of the Samaj. Odisha has been subject to natural calamities such as flood, typhoon and cyclone for generations. There was no one to alleviate the suffering of the people. As Gopabandhu did in the past, so too, to this day, Radhanath and his colleagues at Samaj are the first to provide relief measures to those afflicted by natural calamities. For instance, when a cyclone struck Anandpur in Keonjhar district, the reportage was so authentic that it evoked sympathetic response all over Odisha. It can be said with conscionable pride that Radhanath Rath was as near as is humanly possible the ideal journalist and editor. He is known as a one-man human rights commission in Odisha, pointing out inefficiency and corruption in the government, fighting against dowry deaths, the exploitation of labor, and indeed many social evils. Radhanath Babu believed in the old aphorism that the pen is mightier than the sword. And even though several attempts were made on his life, he continued to uphold the truth. In the legacy of sacrifice of great social workers, Radhanath Babu had twice declined the offer to be Chief Minister of Odisha in 1965 to form a Congress government, and in 1971 to head a coalition government of the Swatantra Party and the Jana Congress. He is truly a karma yogi, always active, even today at the age of 100 years, of course now having to travel by car. He never fails to attend meetings which deal with the welfare of his beloved Odisha. Understandably and affectionately, the workers call him Babuji, or father. Radhanath Babu's second daughter, Manorama, is the associate editor of Samaj, helping her father in its management. His wife, Savitri Devi, at the age of 94, is a mother figure. She has stood by her husband in all his hours of tribulation, even as the legendary Savitri stood by Satyavan. Gopabandhu Bhavan is like a temple for Radhanath. A temple which stands for truth and justice at all times. Radhanath continues to be the president of the Rural Journalists Association. He is so loved by the people that even to this day, groups of women come to him for Raksha Bandhan.
गेल्हा कर बोली कहूची आपण हमको गेल्हा करिवे बोली कहूची गाड़ी देबेनी गेल्हा करिवे से आसी अमेरिका रो
समय इथे मो पाखा रही जाओ हां
हां
ଆମେ ଆସନ୍ତା ବର୍ଷ ସମାଜର 75 ବର୍ଷ ପୂର୍ଣ୍ଣ ହେବ। 1994 କୁ ସମାଜକୁ 75 ବର୍ଷ ପୂରିବ।
75 ବର୍ଷ
ବର୍ଷ ପୂରିବ 1994
ଶହେ ତ ପୁରିନି।
ନାଇଁ ଯେ
ପ୍ରଥମ କଥା ହେଉଛି ସମାଜ ବିଷୟରେ କହୁଛ। ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଦେଶର ଆର୍ଥିକ ପରିସ୍ଥିତି ବଡ଼ ଖରାପ। ଦେଶର ସାଧାରଣ ଭାବରେ ଦେଶର ଆର୍ଥିକ ଅବସ୍ଥା ଭଲ ନୁହେଁ। ତେଣୁ ଆମ ଭିତରେ ଆମର ଯାହା ସବୁ ଆମେ ଯେତେ ଆଶା କରୁଥିଲେ ଯେ ଯେପରି ଭାବରେ ଆମେ ଏହାକୁ ବଢ଼େଇ ପାରିବା ଆଗେଇ ନେବା ସେଥିରେ ଅନ୍ତରାୟ ସୃଷ୍ଟି ହେଉଛି।
At a workers' meeting, Radhanath explains that since the country is facing difficulties, we should remain united in facing the challenge. And we of the press have an additional responsibility to work for progress. Journalist Ramchandra Das.
On my return from Rangoon, where I worked as the correspondent of the Samaj, I wanted to join the Samaj in its editorial staff, and I was welcomed by Radhanatha and late Pandit Lingaraj Misra. I found during my short career of 4 years there that Radhanath Babu always treated the members of his staff not as an employees but as brothers and members of his own family. I got that treatment all through, and others also had the same thing. His sense of responsibility always wanted to see that work done. He was a hard taskmaster at the same time, never allowed his juniors to go their own way. But at heart, he was always kind, and he was very generous, not only to the members of the staff, but also general public, as and when they wanted his help.
At the age of 98, Dr. Radhanath Rath was invited to be chief guest at the opening of the Indian Institute of Mass Communication in Dhenkanal on the eve of Independence Day in 1993. As India's senior most journalist, Radhanath Babu commended the then Information Minister, Mr. K.P. Singhdev, for extending the IIMC to Orissa. In the history of Odia journalism, Karmaveer Gauri Shankar Rai was born 155 years ago. During the British Raj, he published an Odia weekly called Utkal Deepika. On the occasion of the celebration of Gauri Shankar Rai's birthday, a newly instituted award, the All India Best Journalist, was presented to Radhanath Babu by the then Information Minister K.P. Singhdev. Radhanath Babu, recalling the courage and boldness of Gauri Shankar Rai, asked young journalists to guard the freedom of the press, which is the vanguard of freedom in the country.
You are the direct disciple of Utkalmani Gopabandhu Das. He believes in the principles of Bhagavata. What is your impression? What is your principle?
We used to read Srimad Bhagavat every day. One person.
His lifestyle is Bhagavat, basing upon Bhagavata. What is your lifestyle?
My lifestyle?
Ah.
I am a small man. I am working as a social worker.
Doing service to the common people. And now you feel
The
that
service of the common people, not all people. Not only common people, but all people.
Right. But the thing is that, do you feel that the present society, the people are not able to keep the moral values of life? What is your opinion?
Don't condemn in the present generation. People are getting conscious. Generally, people are educated, people are getting conscious about their responsibilities. The whole thing is that there is this Jati Bheda. If it could be abolished, Jati Bheda could be eliminated, and that would be unity, absolute unity, the country would prosper.
So what is your message about national integration and peace?
Huh?
National integration and peace. How to?
National integration is required, there is no doubt about it. That should be national integration.
And what is your message to the present youth?
I am a small man to give a message to the present youth.
I'm an old man. I'm an old man. I'm now 98 years old. What message can I give to the young people? Young people should give message to me.
But you have more experience. You have more experience. You have seen our great teachers, Mahatma Gandhi. You have seen that as your friend was Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose.
I am repeating it. I can't give better message than what Mahatma Gandhi has given.
He was the president of the All India Lok Sevak Mandal for 10 years. He did much to improve the working of the Mandal. He is president and vice president of many educational, social and cultural institutions in Odisha. The pursuit of knowledge has been an abiding passion with this great man. Radhanath Babu maintained an archive, the like of which even some state governments do not have. Starting with the Vedas and the Upanishads, the archive contains books and papers covering a wide range of subjects, from encyclopedias to astronomy, economics, politics, the law, agriculture, children's literature, and the compilation of the Oriya Gazette, all carefully annotated and well maintained. What is amazing is that Radhanath Babu has read all this material, and it is stored in his phenomenal memory. Radhanath Babu has always felt deeply for the underprivileged. Every year he makes a visit to the Daya Ashram in Cuttack. He meets the destitute and disabled and offers them substantial help. Radhanath Rath was for many years president of the Leprosy Association in Cuttack. He persuaded the government to provide accommodation, sanitation, drinking water, and vocational training for all the leprosy patients living in the colony. He was president of the Shailabala Women's College in Cuttack and was responsible for many improvements in the curriculum and on the campus. Dr. Rath was General Secretary of the Kalinga Nippon Buddha Sangh. He extended considerable help in the construction of this magnificent pagoda for peace at Dhauli near Bhubaneswar. It commemorates the beginning of the philosophy of peace and compassion, which began here with Ashoka at the end of the Kalinga War and spread to many countries of Asia. Apart from being an incurable reader, Radhanath Babu is a prolific writer. He has written books on Mahatma Gandhi, Lala Lajpat Rai, Utkal Mani Gopabandhu, the Frontier Gandhi, also a play about Queen Sabia, Satya Sandha, a collection of essays, and many more. Some of his manuscripts are yet to be published.
Professor Tripathi, you are a life member of Lok Sevak Mandal and working in this organization Samaj since last 33 years. Now my question is, what's your observation as a close and intimate associate of Dr. Radhanatha?
Lok Sevak Mandal is a unique trust in the country which work for producing political sannyasis like Lal Bahadur Shastri, Rajashri Purushottam Das Tandon, Balwantrao Mehta for the service of the motherland.
Dr. Radhanatha is a true political sannyasi, working for Samaj from its beginning to the present status of its prosperity under the ideal of our founding fathers, Lala Lajpat Rai and Pandit Gopabandhu. The Gopabandhu Bhavan, now we witness the widely circulated Samaj, now we find in the nook and corner of the province, and the towering influence of the Samaj, now we feel in journalistic field, are all his contributions. I have seen Radhanatha's feelings for the poor and downtrodden in the time of 1960 flood at Cuttack town, 1968 drought at Kalahandi, and 1969 cyclone at Ganjam. His sincerity of work, devotion and heart for the poor is unmatchable.
On his 100th birthday, a special puja is performed at the famous Shiva temple at Cuttack. On this occasion, Radhanath Babu is given a glorious civic reception by the citizens of Rath. Radhanath Babu is so popular a leader in his home constituency that lakhs of people come out for his darshan. He addresses a mammoth gathering of students and staff of the Gopabandhu Science College and assures them of a regular donation from the Samaj establishment for improvements in the college.
When I was nominated as a governor of Odisha, he was the first to greet me in Delhi and had a long interview recorded in his daily paper Samaj. Samaj was a very powerful organ because it spared none and spoke nothing but truth. Radhanath Babu had the spirit of a crusader. He completed his 100 years. People were happy to have him with the same spirit and the same enthusiasm. The present generation of leadership and their sad plight, their depth in corruption, there is at least one oasis in the desert in the shape of Dr. Radhanath Rath that will continue to inspire that here is a person who devoted half his life for the freedom and consolidation of that freedom of India, is an example of suffering and sacrifice, not for himself, but for the people of India. I wish him many more years to come.
100 वर्ष दीर्घजीवी हो, किंतु खूब कम लोक 100 वर्ष बंचती। राधानाथ बाबू 100 वर्ष बंचिवा परे तेणिकी आमे कौन प्रार्थना करिया? सेतिपाई मध्य संस्कृत रे अछि अष्टोत्तर शत संवत्सर जीवित रस।
According to Vedic tradition, the chief minister wishes him a long life of at least 108 years. We have many mementos of Radhanath Babu with Jawaharlal Nehru, Acharya Kripalani, Abdul Ghaffar Khan, Purushottam Das Tandon, Lal Bahadur Shastri, Sheikh Abdullah, Moraji Desai, Indira Gandhi and Nandini Satpathy, V.V. Giri, Sanjeeva Reddy, R. Venkataraman, Gyani Zail Singh, the Buddhist monk Fujimori of Japan, Mother Teresa, the Dalai Lama, Belgian visitors to the Samaj office, visitors from the Soviet consulate, visitors from the German embassy, Jain Muni Dharamchand, N. Bhagwati, V.P. Singh and Biju Patnaik, Jyoti Basu, Radhanath Babu visiting flood-affected areas, attending to relief work. As the commissioner of the Bharat Scouts and Guides, receiving a doctorate of law from Berhampur University, Radhanath Babu with his son Neelkantha and his daughter Manorama's family. This is his great-granddaughter. Apart from being an honorary doctor of law, he received the Padma Bhushan in 1968, the Odisha Sahitya Akademi Award, the Anubrata Award for Public Service, the Freedom Fighters Award, the Utkal Ratna, the All India Critics Award, a Red Cross Award, and so many more. Even as he travels beyond his 100th year, Radhanath Babu lives in the hearts of the people of Odisha, and he will always be a part of the spirit of patriotism which inspires the great sons of India.